Hello, my name is Henrik Jonsson. I'm an independent libertarian entrepreneur and political commentator. Today, I'm in Spain. Spain is an EU country which has suffered brutally under a law designed to regulate the internet. A few days ago, the EU Legislative Committee passed a bill to make a similar law EU-wide. Does this sound stupid? It is stupid. Stay tuned and I'll explain why. Politicians will tell you they love the internet. They just don't like it in its present form, how it works or what people are doing on it. On June 20th, the EU Legislative Committee gave its thumbs up to the new European Copyright Directive, the EUCD. The EUCD is meant to protect copyright holders online, and old-style media and publishing houses specifically. The problem is that the law does not do what it's intended to, but it has all sorts of bizarre consequences. The two main articles of the EUCD which have been criticized are Article 11, the so-called link tax or the snippet tax. Secondly, Article 13, or as I like to call it, the war on memes, demands that large websites henceforward should use content recognition technologies to scan for copyrighted videos, music, photos, text and code and block them from being uploaded within the EU. Supporters of Article 13, who often point to YouTube already using similar kinds of filters, fail to understand the economies of scale at work here. YouTube is a global billion-dollar organization and its filters are backed up with an army of moderators manually checking flagged issues. There are no filters capable of automatically understanding the difference between a parody, a remix, a meme, and criminal copyright infringement. The creative remixing of material is a core part of contemporary net culture and falls under the benevolent general rule of derivative content and fair use, which, for instance, lets me do this.
Only now, at the end, do you understand?
If a hard filter without moderation was put in place, you might not even be able to upload a photo from your smartphone because a friend of yours was wearing a t-shirt with a corporate brand on it, let alone publish any memes. Article 11 is designed to counteract the power over publishers that Google, Facebook and Twitter have gained in recent years. It holds a new copyright rule for linking to news organizations and quoting text from their stories. Online platforms will have to pay for a license to link out to news publishers. Even a thumbnail preview or a short quote from a copyrighted news story will face licensing fees. Traditional media has struggled to adapt to the digital age. 25 years ago, being a newspaper meant being an information hub. Everything from movie reviews and horoscopes to the latest news and analysis was aggregated under the umbrella of the publisher's organization. This business model, like the phone book, is not compatible with a society that runs on the internet. Ad revenues have been falling for decades as people are turning away from newspapers and instead rely on specialized resources online. The main problem with Article 11, aside from the fact that it's striking at the core of what is the internet, is that it won't save the publishers. Laws similar to the one just passed by the legal committee have already been tried, both in Germany and here in Spain, with disastrous, counterproductive results, simply down to the fact that nobody pays the tax. Everyone just stops linking to news stories by publishers instead. Think of it as a massive new paywall. It just filters out 98% of the traffic and people turn to unregulated news sources instead. So why are they moving forward with Article 11 anyway? It's a desperate measure to maintain the established power structures and privileges of mass communication that has been underpinning European politics for almost 100 years. For all the talk of democracy and celebrating the usefulness of the internet, this is part of a bigger pattern, a desire to control information. To the ruling classes, the capacity of the people to turn away from the establishment and its narrative is a huge problem. For instance, in France, Deputies in the National Assembly are right now considering two new proposals put forward by Macron's party, La République En Marche, which will allow judges to close down or block websites that are ruled to be disseminating fake news. For instance, under the new law, they will be able to pass judgment within 48 hours as to whether false information warrants a website closed down. In Sweden, Parliament earlier this year tried to pass far-reaching constitutional changes designed to limit access to sensitive information only to journalists deemed serious by the government. The constitutional changes were voted down in the last minute due to an online uproar. The changes had up until then scarcely been mentioned by established Swedish media. As if this wasn't enough, this spring saw a massive campaign from several major newspapers asking for regulation of what kind of content Google should be allowed to refer to. Eventually, Google caved in, and they are now deploying a Swedish Google, which carries some of the filtering mechanisms used in other great democracies like Saudi Arabia, Nepal and China. The publishing houses and state-run media also recently formed a new tax finance organization aimed at counteracting what they label alternative media. Taken together, it would appear obvious that we're witnessing a power struggle between net culture and the traditional establishment, between new and old forms of media power. Technological advancement tends to be unstoppable over time, but it's unwise to underestimate the delays and economic damage the defenders of the old might inflict to the internet during the final stages of their battle to maintain dominance.
Shake with your right hand, but hold a rock in your left.
A case in point is the bizarre implementation of the other major EU internet regulation, the General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR.
GDPR, you must be careful to be GDPR compliant.
GDPR is designed to protect the privacy of the user. Many websites from outside the EU now look like this. This ought to be considered throwing out the baby with the bathwater. We're protecting your data and limiting your access to data. An overbearing lesson I learned by doing research on the EU CD for this video is the bureaucratic inaccessibility of conclusive information. There is little information accessible to laymen on where proposals like these are designed, how they're reviewed, and where they're voted upon. There is even less information on how they can be stopped.
Is there anything voters could do to get rid of this treaty? In a democracy?
In a democracy, then you listen to the concerns and you see, is there anything we can do?
The net is rife with contradictory information, even from very reputable sources on when, where, and even if there will be another vote. At the same time, politicians worry about the democratic deficit in the European Union and its institutions, and bemoan a lack of popular interest in EU proceedings. To those worrying about the democratic deficit in the EU, it would seem appropriate to suggest beginning by not banning memes and links on the internet. I would like to conclude this video by urging those of you living in Europe to approach your local EU representative on how to best voice your concerns for the vote in the European Parliament this fall. Article 11 and Article 13 make no sense. They should not be passed. Do you think a free and unregulated internet is an important democratic institution worth protecting? Share this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and please leave your comments on the matter in the comment section down below. I appreciate all respectful commentary. If you appreciate my videos, please feel free to support me using Patreon. There is a link for that purpose down in the description below. I am Henrik Jonsson. Thank you for watching this video.